Years later, Denis Goldberg, Ahmed Kathrada, this day, 50 years ago, you were sentenced to life imprisonment, and yet here you sit, free men, living in a brand new South Africa. What does it feel like, looking back 50 years, Kathy?
Sorry, it's almost ancient history. So one just remembers just the bare outlines of what happened. We're talking of the sentence.
Yeah.
Well, I think Madiba had set the tone of what the defense case was going to be. So that right until, from the beginning till the end, till the day of judgment, the expectation was death.
Yeah.
And at that time there was this 90-day detention act, when after the 90 days we saw our lawyers for the first time, and they also said prepare for the worst. So the expectation was death, and the trial had to be conducted accordingly. If I may just paraphrase Madiba's address to court, proclaim your political beliefs, no apologies, no plea for mercy.
Yeah.
And if we are sentenced, there'll be no appeal.
Yeah.
Because Madiba had said no apartheid court is going to reverse this judgment.
Yeah.
And that's how the trial was conducted. Right, so those of us who went into the box, into the witness box, more or less got the cue from Madiba.
Yeah.
The political part of it.
Denis, when that sentence was handed down, and as Kathy was saying, you were expecting the death penalty. That was what was expected.
Certainly.
And suddenly it was handed down saying, no death penalty, but you are going to spend the rest of your lives behind bars. How did you feel at that time? Was there a sense of relief, or was there a sense of, well, perhaps death would have been better?
Have a look.
You're smiling.
Actually the judge said the appropriate sentence in a case which is tantamount to high treason would be the death penalty. He said the ultimate sentence. But that but meant he wasn't going to impose the death sentence. We started smiling, just a little twitch.
Yeah.
And then he said, but the only leniency was life imprisonment on each of the counts on which we'd been found guilty. Kathy was lucky. He was only sentenced on one count.
Okay.
The rest of us got 4 counts of life sentence.
Wow.
And we laughed.
Yeah.
Slowly we laughed. And I called to my mother, who was in court and couldn't hear. She said, what is it? What is it? Mothers get anxious.
Yes.
And I said, it's life, and life is wonderful. And unlike Kathy, for me, it's not just ancient history. We're living it today, 50 years on. But it was such a political trial. Mustn't overemphasize the military aspect. We added the military armed struggle to what was a political struggle. It was one of the parts of the overall struggle. And we mustn't forget that, because there were tens of thousands of people involved, hundreds of thousands in the end.
Yeah.
And so what we're celebrating today, in my opinion, and what I want to celebrate, is the idea of freedom that we stood for, Kathy and all the rest of us accused. It wasn't for us individually. And earlier you were showing the gold coin. It's nice to have our names on a gold coin of remembrance, but it's not just the 10 of us who were in that trial.
Yeah.
There were hundreds of thousands of. Today we mourn the passing of the wife of Governor Mbeki, who was a great heroine in her own right, like all the wives were, who brought up our families, who continued the struggle. And today I heard of one of our MK veterans. He was called British Empire. He's dying after a stroke. He's an absolute destitute.
Yeah.
We don't look after him. We don't celebrate him, and I want to celebrate him.
Yeah.
And all my comrades.
Yeah. And all the struggles and the fights and all the effort that was gone into the freedom that we have here today. I mentioned that we do have Tata Andrew Mlangeni, but he is in our Cape Town studio. So I'm going to actually talk to him. I'm
Yeah.
going to ask him the same question that I asked. We've heard Kathy, Andrew said that it's ancient history. Denis Goldberg said when he heard the ruling handed down, he had a smile on his face because in my mind, the fight still continued. What was it like for you, Tata, when you heard that you weren't going to get the death penalty, but instead life imprisonment? What was it like 50 years ago?